That's occasional seminar on WebWork, an online homework system. Thanks for coming. Each year, the school processes, at least in its major first and second year subjects, somewhere between 46 and 50,000 items of individual continuous assessment destined for hand marking. Staff spend in the region of 3,500 hours actually doing that marking and providing whatever feedback they can within the time available. Most of that marking gets done by the casual tutor body. That's over 100 people per semester, and the cost is $165,000 per annum. There's a little bit of automation, but I think it's fair to say that the bulk of our throughput for continuous assessment is done manually rather than automated fashion. So we're hoping that this seminar might provide people with some food for thought about how that situation might change. So my pleasure to hand over to Tom, who's going to tell us about WebWork. Thanks, Tom.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. So today I want to talk a little about our online homework system. I'm using WebWork as an example of an online homework system, but I really don't want to make this a sales pitch about WebWork. Okay, so if you have experience with your preferred online homework system, please replace WebWork with whatever your preferred system is. Okay, and let me just say, if you have any questions, please do ask. I want to make the bulk of this talk, discussion, seminar about the demos. Okay, so really what I want to do is log into WebWork, play around with it, and see if we can break it. But in order to do that, we have to talk about, well, what are online homework systems, how it might fit in the Uni of Melbourne School of Math and Stats, and then at the end, I'll go through some other considerations that we have to think about if we want to get something like this to work. Okay? So really, an online homework system for math and stats would look something like, would be something that can, assign, collect, and grade assignments from students. Okay? There's a lot out there. They kind of roughly broke down into three categories, in my opinion. The ones on the right, they're publisher-owned. So book companies, they have an online homework system using questions from their textbook. Okay? Pearson has My Math Lab, My Stat Lab. Mastering Physics, even though that's not a math one, I'll come back to that later. There's a reason why I put that there. And Wiley Plus, I think one of their representatives actually came and gave a presentation to some of us in the MSLC earlier this year, at the end of last year. On the left, Wolfram Alpha has their own notebook that the Victorian high school system is using. Maple TA is something that is installed in the engineering department, I think, here at the Uni of Melbourne. And then there's a few other ones that have some textbooks attached to it, but not really by publishers. Okay, so there's a lot out there. The one we're going to talk about today is WebWork, and WebWork is unique in the sense that there's really no textbooks attached to that. It's really just a online homework system. Okay, so it's not like it's not a collection of exercises at the back of the textbook. Okay, has anyone used some of these before? Which ones have you used?
No, I haven't used. I just have a question.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Curious about Alex.
Sorry?
Curious about Alex. Does this have any relation to our former kids?
Huh? No, unfortunately not. At least not that I know of. Maybe you should ask him.
Is Alex kind of new?
I don't know actually. I didn't look into the history of some of these things. I just know that they're there. Some of these actually are not just math specific. So some of these actually have some high school applications as well. So I know like Sapling Learning, for example, the Macmillan one has university courses, but also some high school ones. Okay. So, so this is WebWork is by the Mathematical Association of America. Yeah. Okay. So keep this in mind, right? If you've seen some of these before, then replace WebWork with whatever one you prefer. Okay. So the motivation of this really comes from my conversation with the casual tutors in the casual tutors room. Every time we go in and ask them, so how are your courses going, how are your tutorials going? And they tell me, it's like, oh yeah, students have, trouble adding, subtracting, multiplying fractions, whatever, and they can't do dot products, they can't do cross products, they can't do this, they can't do that. Okay? And in general, right, I mean, if for the stats people or for people who aren't in first year, you can probably replace this with any mathematical verb, maybe a natural number, and then some mathematical object. Okay? So this happens. And one of the reasons I think this happens is because they just are not given enough practice, right? Everything here is mechanical, right? It can get better just with repetition, okay? And so one of the reasons, like I said, is that they're not given enough practice, okay? The only time the students or some of these students do any practice is that one question that they have to submit each week for assignment, okay? And then our tutors grade it, okay? And because we have to, this is the only way we can get them to do some of this work, this takes away from the more complicated problems that they're supposed to be doing for written assignments, the more thinky type questions. Okay? And there's really nothing we do about it because, budgetary constraints, time constraints, and so on, right? If you work this out, right, the average tutor has about 2 minutes per student per week per assignment, right? Or, okay, to grade, to give feedback, to do the admin, to do their prep. Okay? That's really not a lot of time, considering that students are supposed to spend like 170 hours a semester per subject. Right? So that works out to be maybe like 12 hours a week that they're supposed to be working on their math courses. That's not a lot of time. Okay? And so in our first year courses, and I'm sure you can think of examples of this, is there are ways to get around that, right? We can make the assignments easier, right? We can assign fewer marks to assignments, right? We can have fewer assignments. Some courses do that. Or we just grade a portion of the assignments, right? So this is kind of where WebWork could come in, right? So with WebWork, we can use it to complement our written assignments. So if you have fewer, if you say, okay, I want 3 assignments for my semester, per semester, what we can do is we can spend the other 7 weeks, get them to do something on these, to get them practicing on these mechanical questions online, right? It doesn't require any additional tutor hours to grade because it's all done online, right? Or if you want, I'll say, okay, I want my students to submit 10 assignments during the semester. You can make half the assignment written and the other half online, right? So instead of having to grade 1 out of 2 questions, right, you can give them 1 question to hand in and then the other part to do online. Okay? So the point I'm trying to make is that we can implement WebWork, okay, or your preferred online homework system, and not increase the amount of effort or time that our tutor has to grade. Okay. And additional uses for WebWork, and some of these I've seen. So it can be used for quizzes. So for some of our courses, we have an online we have an exam, right, in-class exam. Some of this could be done online, right? Online quizzes. It can be timed. It can be graded. Students get feedback straight away. Okay. Our tutor on duty service. We want students practicing some of their background material, right? Trigonometry, right? How to add, subtract fractions, pre-calculus algebra. All this can be done online. Okay. Just in time. So one of the programs is like these just in time. This is a new feature in WebWork that I recently discovered. It's one of these adaptive exams that if students can progress when they get things right, or if they get things wrong, then it leads them on to further practice problems. Okay, so this is a feature on and I've seen it used as a diagnostic tool. So when students come into university, we're not sure which stream of math they should be in, get them to do one of these diagnostic tests, right? Again, it doesn't increase the work that our tutors have to do. This can be done once, set up once, and then we're good. Okay, one of the points I want to make here is that WebWork should not be a replacement for our written assignments. Okay, I think that's a key point to make. Because, online homework assignments, they're great, but they're not the be-all and end-all. Okay, we still need our tutors to do some of the handwritten, to grade our handwritten work. Because we want students to have good notation, to have good mathematical communication, and that's something that's lacking in WebWork. Okay? And just while we're at it, I did a quick Google of what are the pros and cons of these online homework systems. And everything here is what you would expect, right? On the pro side, it saves time, right? Students get immediate feedback because the questions can be graded straight away. Students can have multiple attempts. They can do more practice problems. The interesting things here is that for example, individualized homework sets. So we can actually randomize the parameters and variables for some of the questions, so each student actually gets a slightly different version of the homework. So that's kind of nice because that kind of it doesn't, it minimizes the chance of people cheating of each other and just copying answers and so on, right? Other thing that's cool, the increased interaction with the lecturer. What they really mean by that, at least in this particular paper I found, is that because everything's done online, the tutor can actually see the stats. They can see when students did their homework, how many attempts they take, how long it took, etc., etc. Okay? And also there's a flexibility, right? Every time you do something online, students don't have, students can do this online. They might not have to come in every week to hand in their assignments, and so on. Okay? On the con side is everything you would expect, right? Students now don't have to they might not keep track of their work. It focuses on the final answer. And for us lecturers, for example, there might be a difficult learning curve. It might be difficult to get questions, right? And so on. One of the reasons why Maple TA, right, despite being, installed already and hasn't been used as extensively in the math department, is because if you want to use Maple TA, you have to create your own questions, right? You have to spend your summer writing up questions for your assignments, okay? It can be done, and if you want to, you should do it, but it takes time, and you have to also learn Maple. Right? Okay. And also, with anything online, there's technical difficulties and so on. Okay. So with that said, we want to pick a suitable online homework system for our school. Things that we should consider, right? These are real considerations. The financial costs, right? How much is it going to cost us as a school? How much is it going to cost the students? With the publishers, right? If we want to use one of their system, right? Usually the students have to purchase an electronic copy of the textbook. Right, that could be $40, $80, right, or over $100, right? So it's expensive for the students, right? How hard is it for us to learn how to program some of this stuff, right? The learning curve, that's important. The scalability, so how does it fit with class sizes, right? If we're going to do all this work and it's only going to be relevant for a single course, it might not be very useful, right? The transferability, I think this is a very interesting question. So the reason why I mentioned mastering physics is because the questions in there are fixed at the end, like they're the questions at the end of the chapter in the textbook. So what happens is when lecturers assign these questions, there are now data banks online with the solutions to all these questions. So students just copy the question, paste it into Google, and Google will kind of link them to where the data is where all the answers are. So there's no thinking, right? Students can just Google the answers. Okay, so what that means is that if this is going to happen, then the first semester, great, students have to work, and then the next semester onwards, students can just Google the answers. So that's not very efficient as a learning tool. Okay, other things like class management, right? Our online homework system should at least be able to talk to the LMS, right? In that, we don't really want to update these data, the student enrollments manually, right? That sounds pretty sensible. Open source, or at least in this sense, I guess, customizable questions. So if you want to switch up the questions, you don't like the American spelling, you want to change the Australian spelling, you should be able to do that, right? There should be, it should be easy to create questions. There should be some question pool, and I guess, technical support, right? If something goes wrong, we want to be able to talk to people who can get it fixed. Yeah. So when we pick, so the reason why I listed this is because I think WebWork checks most of these boxes. So even if you hate WebWork, I think that should be like the baseline for what we expect out of our online homework system. Okay? All right. So with that said, let's just jump in and see what it looks like. So does that work? Oh, there we go. Look at that. So I was trying this morning, right? And what happened was, for those who know, the American school system, they started their academic year today or yesterday, which means that all these courses got shuffled. And so the courses I planned to look at, the questions, that all got erased. So, so what I had to do was, so I'm making this up on the spot now. So actually, does this work? Oh, let's see, where is it? 161, there we go. Okay, so this is what the Uni of Rochester, which is where this thing came from, this is what they would look like. So students would come in, they would log in with their university details. Hopefully for us, students can go through the LMS, they can click on WebWork in the LMS, it'll bypass the screen. So hopefully they won't have to log in again. So unfortunately, I'm not able to demonstrate that. But there's a guest login, so let's do that. So when students log in, this is exactly what they'll see. A set of homeworks. This is all the homeworks. It'll tell them whether it's closed or open or when it'll come online. And then they can just do all the ones that's online. So let's take does anyone have a favorite number? Want to yell at? 1. All right. Perfectly good. All right, someone else, give me a problem. 13. Very good. All right, I don't know what this is, so we'll see. All right, cool. So here is a question, right? You know, the equation of a line goes through blah and blah. So you can see, right? This is very kind of typical of these online homework system, right? Okay. So here M is a number and B is a number. So these are short answer ones, right? You can just insert a number. Okay. It's not too difficult, right? I mean, you can do that. So you can answer the answer. You can give the answers. Other things that would be cool. So we go. Oh, yeah.
Let's go back.
Yep.
Do you know what it means by partial credit? Does that mean like you get one of the parameters correct?
Yeah. So you could get partial credit. Yeah. Usually, hang on. Yeah. So yeah, you can get partial credit, or you can select it so that you can have 1 or 0. So they get everything right or 0. Yeah.
And that correct answer, if you click that box, does that then show you what the?
Oop. Yeah. So the cool thing about this is, right? If you want to sub in here, right? I want to say like 4 and like, you know, -3 or whatever. You can actually preview your answer. So what that means is that you can actually check. This is particularly good for equations. If you have to enter an equation and you're not sure whether you've missed a bracket or something, you can click preview, and then what it does is it just renders it. Renders whatever equation you type. So you can check whether this is the thing you want to put in before you submit your answer. Okay? And this is good. I mean, you can, if you have a limited attempt on some of these problems, this might be good to do. Right? So the students have this option. They don't have to enter the equation in one line and then just hope to God that they've got all the brackets right. Okay? Yeah, and then because this is closed, you can like check answers. Yeah, and they'll tell you, and then if it's correct, it'll become green. Okay? What else? Yeah, because this is a closed problem set, it says checked answer only, answer not recorded. Right? Problem list. What else can we do here? Oh yeah. Okay, so some people prefer to work on pen and paper, so you can definitely generate a hard copy so that you can print. Can we open? There we go. Right? So this is what it looks like. Right? Okay, so you can, if people want, they can actually go in and do things on pen and paper and then enter it online. Enter their answers online. Yeah? Okay. Any questions about this? If you guys see something cool you guys want to check, just tell me what buttons do you want me to press. Okay. What else is there? There's some user settings. Okay, you can change that. Okay, cool. You can also check your grades. So this tells you which questions you've got correct. And also, I think these zeros are the number of attempts you've made on that particular question. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Any questions about this? So this is what the students see, right? So what I want to do, if there are no questions, is actually go to what the instructor sees. So,
So
yeah.
can you enter marks directly? Like, can you change them? Can you go in and say, like maybe say like in linear algebra, you have say what 3 on, say half of them are online and half of them are written.
Mm-hmm.
Can you have say all 10 of them there, and then the ones that are like we do now can be automatically piped in for the online ones, but then you can type in the other ones.
Yeah.
And use it as a database as well. Is that
So this one maybe not, but you can maybe combine it with the LMS. So I've never seen this in action because I don't have access. I can't get this talking to our LMS right now. But based on the documentation, what you can have is every time for every one of these problem sets, you can have WebWork pass a grade to Blackboard, and then that grade will be recorded in Blackboard. And then you can have additional columns in Blackboard to enter your whatever grades that you want manually. Does that answer your question? Yeah? Okay. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, so this is the more interesting side. So, so to log in, the details are Prof A and Prof A, continue. No, I don't want to save. Okay, so this is on the instructor side. So if you want to set one of these courses, this is what it'll look like. When you go in, there's a whole bunch of, all the question sets. What you'll see is that the students will see when it's open, it'll tell you when it's open, and so on. Okay, so what's interesting about this? If I just click on one of these sets, yeah. So this is what the students see. You can set the limit. You can set your attempt limits, worth, how much it's worth. What are these problems? Okay, so what does this give us? Is this of any? Is this interesting? No, doesn't want to load. frozen? Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. So you can it'll tell you what the question is, and then is there an edit? Or maybe not in here. Okay. But so this is what the students see. The user settings. Is there anything interesting here? Grades. Yeah. So this is grades, achievement. Oh, instructor tools. There we go. Classes editor. That's interesting stuff. Okay. All right. So in the past, when I've had to use WebWork, I've actually had to manually input a lot of these data from the spreadsheet, but you don't have to. So, so what is this? This is classless editor. So this is a login name. These are people. So the cool thing is assign sets, yeah. So let's see. Let's look at that. So this student, right, has been assigned all the sets that are checked, right? The cool thing about this is if you have a student with a medical certificate, right, and you need to change their deadline, right, this can be changed manually in here, okay? So it's not kind of just a one-size-fits-all, right? So you can make you can say, okay, it opens when, it closes when, and then, the answers are shown when. So this can be done. Homework set editor, this one might be more, this one's also interesting because you can edit the problem. So you can see which, these are all the problem sets. If we go to calculus 2, no, that's not what I want. I want the other one. Calculus 2, I want this one. Yeah, okay. So this is the general information. So you can open, it tells you when to open, when it closes. These are the kind of the cool things. So you can have quizzes, proctored quizzes. So you can actually do, we can actually set up our linear algebra, the lab exam in this, right? And not only does, do we have to create these random matrices, we can actually get WebWork to do it. So each student has a different matrix slightly, right? And also the just-in-time is the adaptive, the adaptive stuff. I haven't actually played around with that. One of the biggest hurdles with Maple TA and so on is the fact that we have to create our own questions, right? Here in the library browser, there are over 35,000 questions already. So what's a tough subject to write questions for? Right, here is the list, right? We can go and explore some of these questions. What do you hate writing questions for? What subject? Graph theory. All right, this will be fun. All right, graph theory. Okay, and what chapters? Terminology, walks, colorings, trees, algorithms? Coloring, very nice. There are 5 questions. All right, fantastic. All right, let's review those problems. I have no idea how this is going to work. There we go. So verify that each of these, okay, so these are all the questions. Okay, all right, so then you can these are all the questions there are. This is an adjacency matrix, I'm guessing? Yeah.
So that first one looked like it had a text.
Mm-hmm. So it has a
text answer, like make a conjecture about them. So.
Oh, yeah. So this may have to be hand graded or something, right? You can get a tutor and come in and grade it. But yeah, so there are these options. So what you'd expect, right? Multiple choice, true, false, short answer, equations, right? WebWork can do all of that. Okay, maybe graph theory is not the best, maybe not the best topic, right? Because we don't have a first-year graph theory course. So if I say like, what would be like calculus, linear algebra? All right, let's try linear algebra. Let's see what there is. All chapters? Oh, there is like 1,700 questions on there. Maybe what subsection? Vector spaces. Sorry, where are vector spaces? Oh, there we go. Abstract vector spaces? Yeah? All right. There are 97 problems. Let's see how this goes. So clearly, I've checked all 35,000, right? Yep, it's rendering, and it does that. Okay? Cool. So what do you want to say? Let V1 be this, V2 be that, and S be that. Find vectors U1, U2. Oh, what's that? I guess some... I guess there's some context in here, right? Again, so let's say this is a template of what you want to do, but you feel like, okay, I need to specify what U1, U2 is in relation to V1, V2. You can go and edit these problems. How do I go edit? Can I edit? Is this edit? Yeah, there we go. Let's go edit this problem. Right? How does that work? Does it load? No? There we go. Yeah. So that's the problem right here. Right? Okay, in here there's some preamble, and then there's some text. Okay. Good question. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer that in a bit. Okay. All right. But let's say you don't know what language this is, right? And you want to edit some of this stuff, right? So it looks like okay. So you have a non-zero random, possibly from -15 to 15, and then you can change all these things, right? Okay. These are if you have a dollar symbol that looks like it's a variable, right? And so this is your preamble, and then you can state the problem. Look at that. Okay, begin text, let blah. So if you want to change something, there you go, right here. Yeah. So even without knowing what the language is, right? Okay, you feel like you have some chance of editing this. Yeah. Okay. So and the cool thing about this is it's already there. It doesn't have to be written from scratch. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and so on. And so there's the answers. Okay, there we go. And so there's some solutions. So you can print the solutions too if you want. Okay. A more standard course, if we go to calculus, because that seems to be our single variable calculus, there are 8,000 problems. Excellent. So differentiation. Let's see what we have. Derivatives of trigonometric functions. Oh, quotient rule. There we go. Look at that. All right, let's view some of these problems. That might be a... Oh, sorry, was that a question? Oh, yeah, I can... Can I do that? Does that work? Is that better? Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So the cool thing about this is like all the problems are customizable, right? Which is kind of neat, right? And this is something that you don't usually get with some of the publishers, right? Where all the problems are fixed. Yeah.
Does it do the calculation itself for the answer, or do you have to tell it what the answer is?
What do you mean?
So
okay.
The derivative of that is, do you have to calculate it yourself, or you can just write anything down and it will figure out what the answer is?
As in, as in, like, can the computer figure out what the answer to this is? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So if we
write the question and it'll solve it for you. Like,
oh, you have to you have to kind of code in the answer as well if that's what you mean. Yeah.
So it's not a symbolic package.
Yeah. It's not as powerful as Maple or Mathematica underneath this. Yeah. So let's see. I mean, this is the question. So this is the question we want to look at. Find the derivative of this thing. Okay. Can I make this any bigger? Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So what it looks like is you've got set two random variables, and then the variable this is A over B. And then where's CMP? So that's the formula, right? Oh, so this is the thing you want to. This is the answer to the formula you want to print, right? So it has to be. There has to be some hard coding in here. So it's not like in Maple where you can just say like differentiate or anything. Yeah.
So Tom, how does it then distinguish when students give different equivalent answers to the same question?
Good question. So I'm not 100% sure, but because I haven't actually looked that far underneath the hood. But I think what happens is, at least in the past, talking to someone about this, is that what it does is it just like samples 100 points and makes sure like the answer agrees with all 100. Yeah. So I don't have confirmation on that, but I can look into that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions about this? Well,
that's not bad actually, because I have to admit I do that sometimes.
Right.
What's the syntax like?
Hmm?
What's
The syntax, yeah.
no, for students to input in their function there, can you give us an example of how you enter an answer there?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Let's see, does this? Nope. Where is the, so let's try this. So this is what happens, okay, so when you click try it, sorry. No, because huh? I for 10. All right. All right. Huh? All right. How is this done? Oh God. Okay. Yeah. Sure. So it recognizes things like sec x times. Then it's basically square root. Oops. X. It's basically all the functions that you'd expect. Log x. So something like that, right? Or let's say divide by. Right. That's close to it, right? Yeah. I'm close, right? Okay, and then you just check preview my answers, right? Okay, and so that it renders it that way, right? Okay, so I think this program is somewhat forgiving of brackets and multiplication signs. So if I just forget the multiplication sign and I preview my answers, I think it should still work, right? Yeah. Sorry? X sec x. Let's see. Right. Okay. And I think they are quite forgiving of these things too. I don't know if that works, or maybe it's not that forgiving. Look at that. Yeah. Right. So I mean, if I just forget the, yeah. So you know, it's not as kind of as cumbersome as some of the as Maple, where we have to like put in every bracket, every semicolon, right? So this is somewhat forgiving.
What does it do when the syntax is wrong?
Well, good question. So if I mistype this, right? Let's see.
Is there errors?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, this is one of the things. This is part of the reason why I want to have this talk is so we can actually see this in action. It's like, how can we break this? Anything else you want to try?
What's the grid button there on the right of the input box?
This one?
Yeah.
So it's just some of the operations. It's a way to, so if I want intervals, right? Inverse trig, exponents.
Can you actually use it if you click on the...
Yeah, let's try. If I want a to the b, there we go. There's a little caret, right? If I have the n, and I want like just e to the a, right? Yeah. Okay. So the version that I've used in the past actually doesn't have all these features. So this has actually gone a long way from the version I've used. Anything else we want to break?
That's kind of quite simple equation editor there, isn't it? It just inputs the text without trying to do the whole two-dimensional,
Yeah.
Like a word equation editor, and you click a fraction, and it gives you a box and a box, and you
Yeah.
go put it in, and it's very two-dimensional. Whereas this is just really just supporting you entering the one-dimensional syntax.
Yeah. So as far as I can tell, there's no kind of 2D support for equation entering. It's all just one line.
This is
Yeah.
this is okay. I mean, I don't know that anyone ever uses the two-dimensional thing anyway. You play around for 2 minutes, and you're frustrated with it, and you never use it again.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So these are that's basically so this is basically it. So you can do some editing, and the cool thing about this is if let's say this is a problem that you want to include, right? What you have to do is go, okay, well, I want to select the set that I want to include it to. So this looks like it might be calculus 1, and then what you want to do is just where is it? Just add, I think. Do we just add this? Does that work? There we go. Problem added to calculus 1.
So are you messing up somebody's course now?
No? As far as I can tell, this is open for free for all. So this is really a demo course, and that yeah. So this is not part of any current syllabus that I know of. So yeah. So what I've done is I put all the links in the PDF file. So if Rob, I don't know if we can make the slides available. Yeah.
Secondary semester his course is ruined.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I can make the slides available, and all the links are there. So if you want to click in it and play around with it yourself, yeah, you're more than welcome to. So for me, I think this is one of the biggest plus of WebWork is that there is a community who has been coding up all these problems. So it really minimizes the learning curve that we need in order to set up these courses. Yeah.
Can you randomize the questions so that different students get different questions?
I don't think you can do that much. Unless you have a question in which you've built in all these sub questions, right? So I think all the students get the same set of questions. You can possibly randomize the order, but not the actual individual questions. So you can have one half the class does graph theory and the other one does statistics. So you can't do something like that, unfortunately.
Are there sort of hurdles that you can put on? You say, okay, you can't attempt question 2 until you've done question 2.
Yeah, so I think that was the just-in-time thing that I've never played around with it because that's a new feature, but I suspect that's from reading the documentation, I feel like that's what it's doing. So you can make it layered, you can make it a progression thing.
Can students choose to do this kind of
Yeah, I think you can. You can make these assignments not for grades, right? You can say, yeah, I can have this set, even though it pass. You can still make it pass a mark to the LMS, but then when you can say, yeah, this is not counted in the final grade calculation. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But on one thing, it seemed like the question that you looked at, there was a random element already in there.
Yep.
You tell it to choose random numbers,
Mm-hmm.
15 or something, and off you go.
Yeah.
How would one go about making sure that the answer to the question are ridiculous when you start putting in random numbers?
Yeah. So.
In many courses I do, you know, if you give them a linear algebra problem and you ask them to reproduce a matrix, you better choose those numbers very carefully.
Yeah.
Otherwise you end up with 1 over 8,751 or something.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, maybe you don't want to randomize all 25 entries of a 5 by 5 matrix, right? You might just want to randomize 5 of them, right?
But unless you're very careful, you're just back to
Yeah.
working out all the questions yourself.
Yeah, I mean, like, what can happen is, and this has happened in the past, where we want to get students to find the distance between 2 points. And because of randomization, those 2 points were overlapping one another, right? So what you can do is, if a student emails you and say, hey, this question is pathological or it's just really bad, what you can do is you can actually reseed the question so that, hopefully they'll get something better. But yeah, if you just give everything, if you just fully randomize everything, then yeah, it could be bad. Yeah, so you might want to limit the amount of randomization you have, right?
My experience is that it's guaranteed to be bad.
Right.
Probability 1.
Yeah.
Well, you got to write the questions accordingly. So you don't just start with the random matrix. You start with your row echelon form if you want, and then you go backwards from that to.
Yeah.
Right. What I'm saying is that defeats the purpose of having
Right.
this type of system where everything's kind of done in advance.
So-
You're still having to create the thing from scratch.
So what you can do is, like, yeah, you can,
I guess there's no way around the hard.
yeah.
I suppose, is that?
No.
Well,
Yeah.
Unless you can start with the row reduced form and then randomize and then get to do a random
Yeah.
product.
You can definitely do it. You can actually hard code in the answer, or like make the randomization parameter in the answer and then work backwards from there, right? Because then that way your answer is guaranteed to be nice, right? But your original matrix might not be.
Yeah, this is how we construct problems.
Yeah, yeah. So this can be done for sure, right? Yeah. You can tell, okay, so I randomize what the answer is, and then I say, okay, perform a bunch of these operations, and then to get to some bad matrix, right? Or,
So you can actually set up the code. So
yes.
the answer will be this.
Yep.
And now with
Yep.
the random thing in it, and then
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And for some of this is how it's actually done for the integral problems, because there's similar issue too, right? Yeah. Okay. So other interesting things. So scoring tools. I don't know if this is so relevant here. What you can do is you can actually explore the spreadsheet for all the students and the selected problem sets. But if we can get this to talk to LMS, then I don't think that'll be an issue, right? We can just deal with everything on the LMS side, right? File manager. So this is kind of neat. So what happens is that if you have a problem set from last semester that you really want to use, you can just export it here and then just copy onto the new WebWork sheet. So you don't have to kind of add the same problems over again every semester. Right? You can actually have a record of the problems you've used. Yeah. So something else that's new is there is an achievement option now. So if you want to give student gold stars, there is a way to do that. Yeah. Yeah. So this is kind of the overall thing. I encourage you guys to actually go and have a play around with it.
So does it cost anything to use it like for realsies?
You're asking good questions. I'm getting to that. That was on the next slide. So other things that's kind of cool. So I've also got documentation here about the WebWork wiki where there's a lot of technical support if need be. There's the LMS integration documentation. Again, I can't demonstrate that because I don't have access to LMS or a proper course of this. And the other cool thing I learned is that apparently you can get R integration. So you can actually import R code into WebWork. So if you want to get students to do something R related for your statistics courses, that can be done. I don't know how, but the document says it can be done. Okay, so that might be cool. That might be of interest. Again, these are all links, so you can click on that if need be. So the details. The underlying language, okay, it's a combination of LaTeX and Perl. So even without knowing Perl, we were able to actually read and understand what most of that code is saying. And also there's a lookup table as well. So there's a help file where you can look at what each bit of the code does. Or if you need to find the function in the code, you can actually look that up as well. I could not find this on the documentation. So what happened was I actually went on the wiki and asked someone, and they said that the amount of storage is about 30 gigabytes. And this is per 100 students. And this is including the OS, the WebWork code, the course data, everything. The person who's using it said that their server was like 8 gig RAM and a dual-core processor. But they suggested that if we want to run quizzes, so if we expect a large amount of students to be on the server at the same time, we may want to bump up the specs a little bit. Okay, and this is kind of where I got stuck because I'm not very familiar with the server infrastructure at the Uni of Melbourne, so I don't really know what the costs are for running the servers or even which server to run on. So that's something if anyone knows about that, I would really like to know about that. The alternative is that the Mathematical Association of America, they actually have a fee-based hosting, and so it's quite steep in my opinion. And then there's issues of privacy because this is now all the data is stored on the foreign server. There's issues of privacy. There's issues of lag, like relay times because it's hosted in the US. Then the other thing here is that their semester times are different to ours. And so when we're saying okay, it's $300 per course, it's per semester on US time, right? So their course runs from September to December, which is no good for us, right? And the other semesters are the same. Okay, so if we could, I think this would be much better if we can host on our own server. That way we have full control over everything, right? And as far as I can tell, it's free to download.
Did you say it's $300 per course, like for all students, for any number of students?
Yes. Yeah. 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 So, but again, I mean, because this is a subscription thing, right? It's $300 every semester, right? So, whereas if we host it on our own server, it's just a one-off thing, right? Yeah.
If you did it that way, and they start getting courses with 1,500 students and stuff, and then start rethinking their pricing structure.
Yeah. Okay. And just some final thoughts, right? So, I think we really need an online homework system, just because it just helps reduce the tutor load. WebWork seems to be a good fit. There are some details. I've started working on a proposal, and then I realized, hey, this is one of those things where it's probably easier to show you guys than to tell you guys about it. So yeah, so that's about it. I mean, if you guys have any questions, or if you want to play around with it, anything that you want me to break, and be happy to do that. But yeah, otherwise that's it. So thank you very much, guys.
How many students were in the course we used?
I used a course. I was 400 students. Then I was yeah. But this was at UBC. UBC has their own server, so this was installed locally.
It's a mixture of hand-marked and automated.
Yep. So the course I taught previously, every week there'd be 15 to 20 online questions in WebWork, and 3 questions to be handed in to be graded. Yeah.
What's the feedback from the students?
Sorry. Initially, they hated it because of the fact that you have to type and the bracketing issue. But eventually, once they get used to it, it just became pretty quick. Yeah. They preferred the online questions to the assignments I set for writing. So yeah, that might be more a reflection on me than the WebWork. But yeah. Okay. Oh. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
The actual question was, are you able to compare this against any of the other options which you've mentioned?
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah. So my math lab was the other one I used, and I hated it because it's not customizable. Students have to purchase a textbook. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So that was I used it for a kind of differential calculus. Yeah. So. Yeah.
We use local TA in
Yeah.
subjects.
Yeah.
How does it compare in terms of usability? Or do you have something which is
That looked to me more usable than Maple TA.
Yeah.
I find Maple TA a bit. Sometimes you've got to click through a lot of steps to get to the thing you want, and it's not obvious how to get there in the first place. And you have to email Bryce, the admin guy, and ask, how do I do this? And he says, you click this, and then you click this, and then you click this. 9 to 8 is potentially more powerful in that you've got all the maple at your disposal, so it has commands to do row reduction in a single step, for instance, and I don't know.
No, so okay, so I suspect if you look hard enough, maybe someone has done something similar, but using my, my limited knowledge of Perl.
You can load in files, right? So someone
Yeah.
else might have written a row reduction
Yeah.
operation and you can just load that
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
With Perl,
Yeah. So.
you've got to have someone who's fairly expert on the server side, haven't you, to get it?
Yeah. So I mean, let's see. References. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know Perl, but I found that I've actually know enough that I can actually just read the code and make small changes as I need. But if you want to make any big changes like import libraries and stuff, you may need someone who actually knows Perl. Yeah. So the libraries, I know. Is there a matrix? Is that? Yeah. So I know I'm just clicking on random things at this point. Yeah. So you can. Any of these useful?
This is the library to make matrices.
Yeah. So yeah. So there's a whole wiki of the for all these documentation. So I suspect the information is there. It's a matter of just finding it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I mean, Can we make these slides available?
Yeah, we've also requested a recording of this, if anybody wants to. There's some people who couldn't make it to this session, so that recording will go up on the MathStats Learning Centre website sometime in the next few days.
Yeah.
And I guess if anybody wants the slides, Tom, they can just email you and you can send them.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We can do that. So yeah, guys, thank you very much again for your time. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, thank you. I think we can stop the recording. I just turned the mic.